And welcome to another Wednesday here at Business Party Podcast. We have a special guest today, but right before we get to that, do we even need to say what's up? Because we've been talking to each other for the past, like, fucking, I don't know, 36 hours straight. Like,
oh my God, I know. I swear. Every time my phone dings, I'm going to like throw it against the wall. I'm like, I'm going to see you in 5 minutes, God.
But listen, I get that. Good God, I'm still at work. I need to quit this. That's the plan, pal. This is what this all is working towards. Listen,
Yeah.
I get it. I understand it. My phone has been going off more than I've ever had my phone go off in my entire life. And every time I see it, I want to throw it. But then I realize I asked for this.
Yeah, well, that's what I told Mama too. There's only like 2 apps right now that I keep notifications on, and that's like Twitter and Slack. Besides that, I can't, dude. Too much.
Yeah. No, I get it. Most of my conversations on like Snapchat are muted. And
Yeah.
I'll check it every once in a while, but everything else is for the most part is like turned off. I have no notifications really on TikTok or anything like that, or Instagram or anything like. But listen, I get that, and I have to tell myself this is what we wanted, and this is what it is. You know, it's the start.
You wanted it, you got it.
I know.
But it's the start of the fucking network, man. I am excited. I am so ready for this. I can't, you know, there's so much going on.
I'm so excited that
balls was hot.
That's how excited I am.
For those who might not know what these gentlemen are referring to, so we're starting up the Business Party Network. We have, how many of us are there?
There's 7 of us.
There's 7 of us podcasters. There's going to be 7 different shows. Like, it's all coming together. You'll be able to find us all in one place. You'll find us on our own channels. And, you know, it's going to be the start of something beautiful.
It is. Yep. We're also going to do one big show with the whole network on, you know, a couple times, or, you know, it's going to be.
We have that promo. You should roll it so people can see. And then we brought on a new guy yesterday.
Yeah, I know. I gotta remake the promo. Remake the whole intro. But listen, it's part of, and the thing about it is, is we're just doing this ourselves. You know, we're not the Young Turks. We're not anything big like that. We're doing this ourselves. We're learning all this stuff. I told Biz yesterday. Did you shut up? I open up my TikTok and it's Victoria Hammett. I told Biz, he actually has me looking up videos on how to make music, because, you know, like, I love our intro, but I want to see what I can make out of it. You know, it had my brain going, and, you know, I'm like, oh, you know, let me see what I could just do and like I said, jazz it up. I don't know any other word to use to call it. But I said, let me see what I could do to jazz it up. And so I was YouTubing how to make mixes. And I'm just like, this is what you have me doing now. This is what you have me doing now. But
we're very excited.
Yeah, but it's making the brain go. So I'm very excited about that. It doesn't do that much that often, but when it does, it's just this constant go. So with that, I'm going to put it on the whole. I'll just do this. And here we go.
This is the moment. Tonight is the night. We'll fight till it's over. So we put our hands up like the ceiling can't hold us.
It gets me pumped up every time I see it.
I know.
Hell yeah.
But yeah, so those are the 6 shows. We have one more show that was added.
Choices, not chances, with Ryan.
We have some very interesting characters that, you know, people haven't seen before. If they haven't seen Ryan and Oaks, they bring some stuff. We're all kind of like, and I said in the meeting, we're all kind of the same but different. We all kind of have the same kind of mentality about what we want and what our goals are for the network. And it's nice it's refreshing to see people with kind of the same what am I looking for? Same like
on life.
Outlook on life, but different at the same time. So you're not going to get, all the same kind of talking points. You're not going to get the same kind of news. There's different outlooks on the way they see things. So I'm excited. I can't wait. But yeah, it's been fun, and I can't wait to have more fun.
Yes. Yeah. And now we're going to have even more fun with our guest tonight. The one, the only, the most amazing woman on the planet, Miss Deplorable Janet.
Go ahead and bring her up. Oh, there you are. Yay! Yeah.
Thanks for that.
No pressure.
I am pretty amazing if I do say so myself. No, kidding.
Oh, yes. So, welcome to the Business Party Podcast.
Hello. I got to tell you something real quick.
Okay.
Congratulations to you guys for being able to do that and make it come to fruition.
Thank you.
So, congratulations on that, because that's a big deal.
Thank you. Thank you.
And like I told them, obviously, they know that I'm pretty squared off. I really don't show much emotion besides laughter. And I was even like, I'm in disbelief that this is even happening. Like,
yeah, it's something that we've talked about for a long time, of something that we wanted to do, and it's just like at the very infantile stages, but it's
still exciting.
But you're making it happen, so congratulations on that, because that's a big step.
Thank you.
I mean, and like we were saying, it's like we don't have any big money. We're all just working class people who just work, a regular 9 to 5, then come do this on the side, and then the things that cost, now we have to go. Okay, I got to work for this. I got to cut back on this. So we're just like normal everyday people cutting back on certain things so that way we can afford the thing we love to do, with people we love to do it with. And that's the main thing, is as long as we're having fun and we don't have to go by standards, what I mean?
Amen to that.
Yeah.
Like we can be who we are. And I tell the story, and I will tell the story to the day I die. We were at the beginning, I was go, let's get sponsors, let's get this. And business is like, well, I don't. And I'm like, I'm just going to do it. And I went out and tried to get the sponsor. And the guy was just like, the guy owned a gun store. And he's like, you guys use the word fire truck too much. And I'm like, fire truck? What are you talking about? The fuck word? I'm like, you own a gun store, sir. What do you mean? And he's like, yeah, it's kind of, I don't know if people really. And I go, okay, whatever, dude. I don't care. So I told Biz that, and Biz goes, fuck that guy. And then we did in 2 hours. Biz said fuck 732 times.
Fire truck.
Fuck that fire truck.
I think that's important, though, that you guys stick to, like being yourselves and not bending for other people, because there's so much out there like that where they want you to be molded into, this box or that box, or you're not accepted. So
exactly. I definitely
kudos for sticking to it. Yeah,
absolutely. I definitely agree with that. Because most of the shows I listen to are just like that. They're like, we're not gonna bend for a whole lot of anything, because today's day and age, it's not worth it, to be honest. I mean, for a buck?
Right. Absolutely.
And at this point, with everything that we've been through, like as a collective of people through 2020, learning about like how we've been lied to so much by media, even some influencers and stuff. What service do we have to our audience to do that?
Right.
We came out here being ourselves. We need to stay being ourselves, because the second that we're not, then I wouldn't watch me anymore.
Right.
And I wouldn't expect anybody else to.
Right. Exactly. Yeah. And speaking of being yourself and going through the woes of some things, Janet, you have been through some woe of some things.
I have been. Yes, I have been.
Let's say introduce yourself. Tell them a little bit about your background and how long you've been kind of going with your podcast adventuring and all of that.
Well, I am Deplorable Janet from the Deplorable Nation podcast, and I have been doing it for like 3-4 years now, I think. Do a lot of different things, host a lot of different topics, but a lot of it is medical related, childhood trauma related, kind of like an online counseling session for a lot of people where they just get to come on, tell their life story, things that have been traumatizing to them or illnesses or, incidences that they have been through. And how they've worked through it to overcome basically and be who they are today. But yeah, exposing big pharma and medicine is pretty much the favorite topic. How about that? And yes, get a couch. I could always
next time you're on, I'll have a couch so that way I could do it from the couch and we could have a conversation. And then I was 3.5 and my uncle put his finger somewhere he shouldn't have. And then I took a shower with a guy named Joe.
Joe, did he sniff you from behind? That's what I want to know.
Well, he said
wrote it in your diary that someone stole, I think, right?
Well, he said his daughter Ashley was in the other shower waiting for him, so he had to be quick.
All righty then.
Well, that got dark quick.
Let that slide right by.
So what got you started into the podcasting?
Oh boy, that is a story on its own. So I don't know if you guys remember this or not, but back in the day when Twitter, was kind of first getting a little bit popular, they had Periscope on there, which is what their lives are now. And I had a really good friend that, we've been friends with locally here for a long time. And he's like, we should do Periscopes together. And so we'd just get on there and shoot the shit for like hours at a time or whatever. And then he was on a large podcast as a co-host, and he kept trying to get me to come on, talk about COVID stuff. That was back in 2019. And I was like, oh, nobody's going to want to hear what I have to say. I'm not going to do that. And it took probably about 5 months of convincing not just me to come on, but convincing the host of the show and the other co-host to let me actually come on as a guest, because I was the only female. And so we had to have a little phone conversation first. And they had to get to know my personality. And within like 5 minutes, they're like, oh my God, you're worse than us. Okay, come on the show.
Exactly. Hell yeah.
So yeah, that's how I met you two lovely people. Was from back in those days. And so the reason why my podcast kind of like spawned out of that whole thing is because I always have so much to say, and like they couldn't stick to a schedule. And so I was like, you know what? I'm just going to like do my own thing or whatever. And so I did. So I just like left and not happy terms and just went and did my own thing.
So what kind of got you into like the medical, like COVID-19 kind of thing? Was it the virus, or did you already have like a background in that or anything like that?
I am a retired nurse, and I also taught medical students. So in college, I taught doctors, nurses, medical assistants, phlebotomists, like the whole 9 yards. And so I've been a nurse for a really long time. So I've dealt with different forms of corona. I'm going to say different forms of that because It's actually something else.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, having worked around every thing that's ever happened in the medical community, like nothing scares me because it present during the HIV stuff and the bird flu and the swine flu and Ebola and West Nile and literally everything or Zika virus and literally everything that's ever been thrown out as a scary everyone should hide moment. Yeah, like I'm fine. I haven't died and everything's great.
Right.
I mean, you weren't like twerking or making videos during those times?
No, because I retired before that hit. And so
I mean, you didn't set up one of those big camcorders and was just shaking it.
Oh, okay. No, I'm very glad to see that the nursing profession as a whole has devolved into just twerk on Twitter for likes.
That's ridiculous.
Instead of care for your patient for their life, twerk on Twitter for likes. There you go.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I mean, you haven't seen the most recent one where medical students who are becoming doctors are now singing and performing numbers as they're getting their diploma to become medical doctors.
Well, kudos to the people that went through school during the COVID thing, especially for the physicians where they're like, you don't have to finish school because we need doctors so bad right now. We're just going to go ahead and pass you and you pass your boards and here's your license to practice. And I can tell you from all the years that I taught, there are some really stupid people. Whether it's nurses, doctors, whatever medical profession that you're in, there are people that definitely should not ever be in charge of somebody else's health.
Oh yeah, I believe it.
Oh man,
I'm scared. I'm so scared to go, because I mean, during the whole, and here's what really pissed me off. One of the many things that pissed me off is that everybody was pushing for socialized medicine. Everybody gets free healthcare. Everybody gets free healthcare. Everybody gets free healthcare. And then the same people who were pushing for that, when the virus hit and people didn't want to get the juice that you just had to go to a Walmart in the parking lot and some guy who they just hired off this was going to put it inside of you, because your doctor couldn't do it. They were just, my brain just went.
Oh my God.
They're related to me. It's rubbing off.
Was just, that
steam's just like,
yeah, I know. I forget.
Well, no, like during that whole time, like you were talking about like wanting the free health, like the healthcare thing, and then and
turned around
but also right, and like forcing people to try to get this, I don't care, get this vaccine and stuff like that, like and then you have hosts like Jimmy Kimmel being like, oh well, if you don't get it, then you're not going to be treated at a hospital. You're the low man on the totem pole.
That's
what do you say? Good luck, Wheezy.
Yeah, that's exactly where I was going. So then the same people are now turning around like Jimmy Kimmel, because you're in my head. That's exactly what I was thinking of. Are just now like, well, if you don't get it, then you're just gonna die. Too bad. You're not allowed in our hospitals. And it's like, wait a minute. So you're okay with the person who goes to McDonald's every day, has high cholesterol, who does nothing to take care of themselves. You're okay with them getting free healthcare, but a person who maybe can't get it because of like the guy from who got thrown out of The Offspring because he couldn't get it, or else who would have got Guillain-Barré syndrome, Guillain-Barré disease, whatever. Yeah, Guillain-Barré. I'm not French. I have no idea. He couldn't get it, or else he would have that. Now all of a sudden people are just like, well, then die. Like, and it's such a, it was surreal to me that that's where we were at a time in our history.
Well, and think about this too. Those same people that were demanding that everybody on the planet get vaccinated are the same people that are literally out protesting in the streets, my body, my choice.
Right.
So your body is your choice, but no one else gets the choice in their body and their say so because you said so.
Right.
Or it's funny to me because it's the same people also that are like, believe the science. You're a science denier. Believe the science. Unless you're very adamant on the fact that there's only two genders.
Yeah, then
And
they're
then
like,
you
well,
don't believe the science.
They're like, not that science.
Right.
No.
Right. The other science. The science I said.
Yeah.
It's like, it's ma'am. It's ma'am.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, a part of me though isn't surprised though that they did act like that, because it's also the same people who are out there, you know, we were saying like my body, my choice, but also aid in the whole dehumanization of humans, you know?
Right.
So it does, because actually there was a guy who came out the other day talking about how the earth is overpopulated and the human population needs to be culled.
But yet, what are we? We're like 0.3 or 4% under what we should be when it comes to population.
But let me ask you,
reproduction, as far as it goes, like here and other countries are under also.
But let me ask you guys a question about population.
Mm-hmm.
Do you believe the numbers for population that they say that we have?
I don't necessarily.
Or do you liken them to the numbers for like space stuff where they just pull them at random out of?
I think it's a little overblown. I think it's a little overblown. I don't think we have as many people on the planet as they say we do. Me personally.
No, I don't think so either. Because if you think about like if you've ever traveled a lot, like via vehicle, like to different states, like you have the little hubs of like towns and stuff, but there's so much
property,
farmland.
Right.
Like a lot of people think the state of New Jersey is like super duper over like populated or anything like that. But what most people don't understand, the reason why it is actually called the Garden State, there's a lot of farms. There's a lot of farmland. There's a lot of different types of land. I was fortunate enough to live in a place that was near a lot of farmland. So you don't really realize that because most of the population is in those more of like the city or the suburban areas. And like, there's a lot more rural area than people understand.
Your white privilege is showing, Jackie.
I can never
tuck it in.
I can't ever say that word either. The rural.
But that's the same thing with New York. Like everybody thinks that New York City is New York, and it's not. Like New York, well, they call it, well, for where we're from, because I'm from Jersey originally. I live in Missouri now. But New York, upstate New York is huge, and it's mainly farmland, you know, and people just think that, you know, you say New York and automatically it's New York City, but it's not. Like most of New York is red, you know, politically, you know, it's just that one little tiny island where everybody's on that, you know, is unfortunately what makes the decision from all of New York.
Well, and then you look at California. Southern California is super duper over like populated, and then you have like, you know, what is it, like the San Francisco, Oakland, but everywhere else in California is beautiful, but it's a lot of ranches and stuff.
They do a lot of farming in California, actually.
That's where a lot of wine comes from. Like all that wine country is in California. You know, a lot of land for that.
Nuts. They have a lot of nuts there. That sounded wrong.
No pun intended.
No, they really do have a lot of nuts there.
No, you're absolutely right. There's a lot of nuts out there.
They harvest a lot of almonds there.
It's like
there you go. Real nuts.
Both edible and mental.
Yeah.
Both, too.
Sometimes you go Caitlyn Jenner and get them taken off. You never know.
Is that before or after you kill someone? I never know.
Always after. Always after.
Always after. it was after that his driving just got real bad. Right.
Right.
But it's actually cool because if you think of California, though, too, how I think it's been for a very long time. There's a movement up in Northern California where they want to secede from California and become part of Idaho or something.
Is it? No, is it? I believe it's Oregon. Oregon that
Well,
wants.
it's called Jefferson. Oh, I know.
Yeah,
it's like Jefferson something. Jefferson City.
I think it's Oregon that's going to be a part of it, and I think they won. I think they are actually doing it. There's also a town, did you hear, in Louisiana that did that too?
For Baton Rouge.
Yeah, Baton Rouge. That they actually, because they were just talking about the schools and everything like that, and then they were just like, all right, form your own town, and then they formed their own town, and they went, it's all white, so you guys are racist. And they were like, well, we were asking for specific things. There's all this crime in the school, and we're asking for the crime to be, dealt with, and nobody's dealing with the crime. So we went and started our own town, which was voted on for like the last 10 years. And now all of a sudden it's racist. It's just like,
everything is racist. Everything and everyone is racist at all times.
It's like that song from the Lego movie. Everything is awesome, but everything is racist. It really is. Like but that's the worst part though too. Is I mean, it's stupid, and we've all probably said it before 100 times. But every word is just used up now. It doesn't really have meaning. Like everyone uses the word fascist or fascism, and they never use it right. They use racist, never use it right. It's ridiculous now.
100%, because they don't really know what it means. They're just repeating talking points that they hear.
Absolutely.
And that's what one of the things. I'm sorry. That's one of the things that drives me insane. Is like, if you think differently, somehow you're the sheep. You're just regurgitating right-wing news, or you're just regurgitating white supremacist talking points. I'm like, do you guys understand that this was what you called this white supremacist, and then everybody on your side decided that the okay sign for millennia,
right,
was a white supremacist sign. Like, you guys are people, and I'm not saying on the right there aren't crazy people too, but like the biggest voices are coming from one side because the news is one-sided,
right,
because of the Smith-Mundt Act, now. But like, I just don't understand how, like, I understand words evolve, but you're kind of taking the joy out of some words. Like the word gay. The word gay used to mean happy.
Yeah.
It was now you can't even, like, on TikTok, if you say the word gay and you don't have pronouns in your bio, you will get bananaed. You'll get banned from TikTok. It will give you a couple. Yeah, but you can't say banned on there either. You can't say you'll be banned. You have to say bananaed. But if you say gay and you're not, because I was talking to a friend of mine on there, we were on TikTok Live, and he's gay, and we were having a conversation about being gay, and I said, something about it, and all of a sudden my feed just went down. I went off, and it says you've been banned for hate speech, and it's like, what the fuck?
While you're talking to a gay man about his life.
Yeah, and it's
how much the Chinese hate the gays, man. That's why you don't want to have that propaganda spread.
Here's the funny thing. Here's the funny thing too. Like, I really don't give a shit if TikTok is here or not. I could give a fuck less. The funny thing to me is that everyone keeps fighting for it to stay here because of free speech. Yet you have zero fucking free speech on there. So why the fuck are you fighting to keep it here? Why don't you just fucking go make videos on some other shit, whatever else?
Everyone misses Vine.
Well,
and it's
that's true. And also,
Vine.
In there's Clapper, but Clapper is the worst. It's like you upload a video and it's like it's all fucking janky and shit. It's retarded.
It's the money. Point blank, it's the money, because you get paid a little bit to advertise on there, so you get a free product. I've gotten a free product or two, and you just make a 15 to 1 minute video on it, and if somebody else buys it and they push the link, and then you get a certain amount. And then also, when you go on lives, people can throw you money. They take TikTok takes like 60-70% of it, but at least you're basically just sitting at home doing nothing, just talking to people, and people will just throw you coins and everything like that. So a lot of people don't want it to go away because of the money. A lot of people have made their career on just sitting at home and begging for money.
And, I mean, which is true. I get that too, but I also, don't get me wrong. Whenever I say I don't give a shit about the TikTok deal, whatever else, I don't think it should be banned because I don't think the government should tell you what the fuck you can do in the first place.
Right.
But yeah.
Well, the same people who are calling for it to be not banned are the same people who go capitalism is bad.
Exactly.
As they're like, hey, buy my products from their TikTok shop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Well, honestly, sometimes TikTok gives me a little bit of a complex because why am I always getting all these ads for this neck cream and this eye cream? What the fuck are they trying to tell me? And they're like, hey, listen, you look kind of shitty. You should probably try this new pillow. You haven't been sleeping great, lady. Like, they know I've been scrolling until 2 a.m. They're like, you know what? We should probably give her an advertisement for a new pillow. Maybe that'll help her sleep. Like, I'm like, stop.
That's hilarious.
Spying on me.
All right, what other are you on social media, Janet? Are you
Me? Oh yeah.
So what do you use? What do you prefer to use?
What do I prefer? I prefer Instagram. I used to prefer Twitter, but I'm on account number 14 on Twitter now.
Yeah.
I kept getting nuked for the dumbest shit, even whatever, reading an email, and I'd get banned. So it was like I lost all of my followers, had to start completely from scratch. And so I can actually get more interaction on Instagram now.
Have you been back since Elon bought it, or?
Oh yeah. I have an account on there. It's like I can tweet something and it goes into this black hole abyss, whatever, and I'll be lucky if 2 people see it.
Oh yeah, my Twitter has always been that way, and I don't like. That's why I don't really post much on it because it's like screaming into the ether sometimes.
Right.
But now that I have these 2, and then like following me, it's just like, oh, I post something. I'm like, thanks, guys. I got 2 likes.
My 2 best friends. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you. But that's also why I like doing this, because I felt the same way. I felt exactly the same way. Like with Twitter and all the social media is like you feel like you're screaming into the ethos and nobody's hearing you. And with doing this, like you kind of feel like you're getting heard a little more. And
definitely,
and then you're, and that was the whole thing when me and Biz were like starting. It's just like, listen, I don't care if anybody like I don't want to be an influencer. I don't want to influence you into thinking the way I think. Like, make your own opinion. We'll throw some stuff at you. We'll ADHD this. And then, you catch something and you go, hey, maybe I'll check that out. And that's, that's nothing. That's something I never got on Twitter or Facebook or anything like that. So, it was nice to do this.
Yeah. And see, I do, I have a Facebook too, but that's, mostly for like family, friends.
Yeah.
I do like have podcast friends or whatever, but being a podcaster myself, the greatest interaction is on Twitter or on Instagram, because that is literally where I can connect with people to come on my show. And meeting like other podcasters in the community, which has been absolutely like life-changing, amazing, right? To have that, it's almost like family network, I guess you could say, from all the people in the podcast community, and then all the guests that we find, and we all become like best friends. Like my 2 very best friends in the world right now. One was a first on my show. Never had done a show before, and the other one I was referred to by somebody else, and we've never even met in person, but we literally talk on the phone every single day, always.
Nice.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
I think that's part of like the beauty of even the internet itself, because like even like how Biz and I got started, and how we got connected to you is just internet, you know.
Right.
And the one thing that I love about your podcast, Janet, too, is even from the beginning of yours, you're just like, hey, I don't care who you are. If you want to come and just have a conversation, come on and have a conversation. And that's how I got connected with you. And if anybody wants to check out my first podcast ever, go to Deplorable Janet.
It was a good show.
Yeah, episode 22. Psych.
Yep.
We talked
that was
about
back
psychology.
In the early days. And that was that was a great episode. And I reference that episode frequently because a lot of times when I go on to other shows and do guest spots, like we talk about, you know, the psychology behind things or different psychology experiments that have happened. And I'll be like, go and check out my episode that I did with Jackie because,
I know. Well, it's actually funny. I was having another conversation with someone about psychology the other day, and they might be in the chat right now. But we were talking about how, because I went to school, I got my bachelor's in psychology, and I could have gone forward, and I stopped because, you know, when you really look at it, though, the whole practice of psychology, like the practice of it, is really messed up.
It is. It's very messed up.
So messed up. And I was talking about how today, one of the practices in current psychology, and you can see it kind of coming into like cultural stuff, is a lot about has to do with mindfulness. And it's very self-centered.
New ageism. Yeah.
Yes. It's all about like, because I was because you know, when you go and you see someone for therapy, yes, you're supposed to be trying to like, you want to better yourself or get through things for yourself. And sometimes a lot, like, well, before a lot of times it would be like doing acts of service, not for yourself, but for other people. It will help you, like, but now it has everything to do with, you have to make sure you do everything that you can to make sure that you feel good. It doesn't forget everyone else. You do you to make yourself feel better. And I was talking about how I suffered from really, really bad anxiety for years. And I went to the psychologist, and they were talking about the whole mindfulness. And I was like, I'm here because I feel selfish in my anxiety. So you're telling me to be even more selfish?
Yeah.
I don't
go ahead and make yourself suicidal, because that is the way we practice nowadays.
Yeah. So I was like, thank you very much. And then I never went back.
You know, we were having that discussion not too long ago about therapy and how therapy has become like completely opposite of what it used to be. And it's not about trying to heal the person from deep emotional scars and stuff. A lot of times it's just like a way to push this crazy new agenda on people. And like you were saying, that is so much identical to the new ageism that they're pushing for churches and stuff now. It's like all about you and how you're a god, you're a goddess, you're perfect and whatever. And I'm just like, oh my Lord, this has been going on in therapy for quite a while now. And that's why I'm like, traditional therapy is not what patients need to get out of the state that they're in right now at all.
And like that,
Not
and like
the
especially what's it in the last few years you've been hearing about like the gender affirmation therapy or gender affirming therapists, like you're like that's not helping anybody.
No. But you know, that whole thing right there, that stems from the Tavistock Institute, because the Tavistock Institute actually started the gender ideology counseling services and whatever, and most of their patients that were pushed through this and counseled on gender affirming care and then pushed into transition were found to be mentally incapable of making decisions. So they were moderate to severely retarded patients.
Mm-hmm. Oh.
And they investigated themselves, and they're like, shame on us, we shouldn't have done that.
What?
Right.
Yeah.
All right, move along.
Mhm.
Yeah. Well, and you look at a lot of the therapies and stuff today, and like what people are identifying with is
Mhm.
is trauma,
Right.
right?
Trauma is
So
the root of almost everything.
Yes. So like you can bring up trauma about anything. You could have the best childhood ever. Like we had there was a TikTok video of this girl talking about how her parents were narcissistic because they did everything they could to take her to school every day, to pick her up from school, and also make sure that they were at every after school event that she had, and that they were narcissistic and didn't didn't teach her how to become an adult because they loved her so much.
Right.
And I was just
so
like,
ridiculous.
whoa.
But you know, the thing about trauma is that a lot of trauma is actually trauma that you don't remember. So even things back to when you're in the womb and, you know, your parents are fighting in the same room or whatever, or there was a car accident when your mom was pregnant, or little boys getting circumcised, or like my best friend had open heart surgery when she was 7 months old. And so these are things that your body stores at a cellular level. They store that trauma because of the way that our synapses and extrasynaptic receptors are set up. And it fractionates those memories and it hides them in the subconscious. And then those resurface usually around the anniversary of whatever event it was, or around whatever traumatic thing happened, whether it was a house fire or something like that. Then your body will actually remember those things and manifest physical symptoms like a year later, and every year around the same time. So
that makes sense.
Yeah.
No, that happened. I mean, I know that I saw a horrific car accident when I was in college. Like literally, I saw a woman die, and every year around that time, because like for me, I can't specifically remember the date, but I know that my body, I'm like around a certain time, I'm like, why do I feel so like there's nothing going on?
Right.
There's no reason why I should be irritated or anxious or anything like that. And then I think back and I was like, oh, I think it's around that
and
time.
it's weird because it's not just like manifestation of like physical pain or you know, like flu-like symptoms or something, but a lot of times it involves, or it can involve, like any of the senses. So if somebody was in a car accident or something, they may taste like metallic stuff in their mouth around that time, or if they were in a house fire or something, they may get the smell of something burning or whatever. So it fractionates those things so that we cannot figure out, or we can't piece together like a whole picture of what that trauma was. And that's why like myofascial muscle release and physical therapy helps to release those things. EMDR therapy, like all of that kind of stuff, are different techniques to help people overcome those kind of things. But if you look it up, they'll tell you that if you have traumatic events that are stored in your memory, that you are basically psychotic in the terms of their diagnosing. You have some kind of mental disorder because you have trauma stored away.
Cheers, fellow psychos.
Right.
Exactly.
And like I know for myself, I've had 2 C-sections for both of my kids. And with the first one, I didn't realize it at the time, but I had post-traumatic stress from it. Like where I would be sleeping at night and I could feel like tugging. And even though that nothing was going on, but my body being like it was an emergency C-section, so it was very traumatic.
Well, and those are rough surgeries. Like anything abdominal like that is like the most horrific abdominal surgeries are for females. And if you've ever if you ever get a chance to watch one of those, you have like a newfound like appreciation for females that go through C-sections or hysterectomies or any of that stuff.
I had to, well, I mean, I didn't necessarily have to, but I still, obviously I was there, but I did with my ex, because she had to have a C-section with our daughter, and I watched it all. Because I mean, I don't, nothing really bothers me with any of that, but it was crazy. And then especially the recovery process and the length of time and all that, because I mean, they're cutting through all of your muscle. So it's like you have to rebuild so much.
Absolutely.
I couldn't even watch my child being born. You're just sitting there watching him cut your.
Oh man, my husband took pictures. I only saw the pictures once, and I was like, I didn't want to see that much of myself, not in myself.
You're like, is that a mole? Wait,
it's on the other side of my colon. What?
He puts it at Christmas time. He just puts it on the big screen. Hey guys, you want to see this?
Oh my god!
Call your friends over for barbecue, and he's got it hooked up to the TV.
Yeah.
If your husband had that up while I was eating his barbecue, I'd wonder where the meat came from.
Oh my god!
It'd be like,
Jackie, it goes a long way.
Could scar my son every birthday. So this is how you came out. This is what you did. No, you know what? It should be a punishment. Anytime he's like a teenager or something and he does something bad, this is what they had to do to me to get you into this
what
world.
you did to me.
This is your fault. I'm not causing trauma on you, but this is your fault.
But goodness gracious.
It's funny you talk about like your anxiety and stuff like that, but I remember when we were first doing this, how you would say how like your anxiety like was going through the roof before we went on. Now it's just like you're crocheting before we even start. You're like and it's nice to see, you know, how far like all of us have come, you know, on this, but like when you said that, I was like, oh shit, that's right. And it like unlocked the memory how your anxiety was like through the roof before we started almost every episode. And now you're just like, all right, guys, this is what we're doing. All right, this is what we got. This is what we got. I sent this and I got this and I got that.
Now she's in control, huh?
Yeah. And it's great. Like when you can finally control, you know, your mind and everything like that with certain, you know, like but anxiety happens sometimes out of nowhere, you know, and I used to be one of those people like, no, you know, because my daughter has anxiety, right? And I was always like, what do you know, what's wrong? Why? And then, you know, we get older and we realize maybe, you know, and I started realizing that what I was having was anxiety. You know, I was experiencing anxiety too, and I didn't know what it was. You know, I just thought I was like just angry for being angry, but that's how I was dealing with my anxiety. I was angry because I didn't know what it was, and I was kind of scared, you know, because I was just like, what is this? And so, yeah, I mean, it's nice to kind of know where you were and how you've come through it, and you know, sometimes you have to deal with it yourself, but sometimes you need help, you know, and it's nice to get help. But like you said, with the affirming care and psychology, you know, my daughter, I went to therapy with my daughter once, and you know, her mom was just all about like she knows everything, and I'm like, she's in 7th grade, she doesn't know shit yet, so stop telling me she knows. And we were in the therapist, and the therapist was just like, well, that's her, you know, that's her dealing of it. She has her what do they call it, her interpretation or her reality, her truth. That's her truth. And I was so angry. Like, I understand her truth, but she's lying. Like, she's literally making this stuff up in her head, and you're antagonizing it, and you're allowing it to happen.
And that right there is a key problem with therapy today, because kids in general are very manipulative at a younger age. And it's because the brain is not fully functional yet. And so they just deal with that manipulative part. And the therapist, it's like, are almost to the point where they're championing that kind of behavior. And, oh, you do you, girl, you be you, live your truth kind of stuff. And that is so damaging to a child because they need to learn from an early age, especially preteen, the difference between right and wrong and what consequences are.
Right.
Yeah.
You should
absolutely.
not be applauding manipulative behavior at all.
But it's in the same token, it's the same way as the gender affirming care. Like, they have patients forever now. So they've found a way. They don't want to cure you.
Well,
they want
no.
to keep you, coming back, because if they cure you, they don't get paid anymore. So now they found a way, hey, let's make them think that there's something else, and we'll put them on more medication and more medication.
Right.
And that time in your life when you just don't know what's going on and your body is changing, let's just take that and reverse everything and make it go all different ways, and then not expect them to lash out at people, and not expect them to not understand how life is, and just keep them in a constant state of childhood, and keep them in a constant adolescent state.
Right.
And you have a lot of kids now who don't want to leave their parents' house or grow up and or say, there's no reason why I should get a 9 to 5. There's no reason I should be working 40 hours a week. Why should I do that and kill myself for nothing? Because my parents are going to take care of me.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Right.
And
and to your point, and I always call this the Pringles conspiracy of the pharmaceutical world. When you go in as a patient and you have depression, they can't stop at just one. They have to prescribe you a cocktail of medications to take. And a lot of times those medications are completely opposite of each other. So you need something to pep your mood up because you're depressed all the time. Okay, we'll write you this prescription. And then you're too excitable. So then we need to bring you down. And so the medicines fight against each other, and your body like doesn't know what to do. It's confused, and it's like, where do we go? And then like it's always in a state of disbalance. That's why when those patients come back for their follow-ups, you're like, how's your depression? And they're like, oh, I don't know. I don't feel like it's getting any better. Well, duh, because the medications are counteracting each other. And so let's prescribe a third one. Oh, but let's give you something also that you can use short, as needed. So let's give you 4 prescriptions now to treat the same thing.
Yeah.
It's like they're giving you like the Wolf of Wall Street drug cocktail, where like you're
Yes.
up in the morning, fucking rocking, then mid-afternoon slamming some fucking Xanax to calm down. It's like,
Exactly.
man.
Yeah, and a lot of the medications that they give, and this is why childhood trauma and repressed memories and all of that stuff plays into it, because we have in those the receptors, the synaptic and extrasynaptic receptors, those work on amino acids. And what they do if it gets too hyperactive, it's called glutamate. And if glutamate gets too high, that's our like hyperactive amino acid that makes us like crazy. If that gets too elevated, then it attaches to the extrasynaptic receptors in your brain, and it changes brain chemistry and brain function, which is exactly what benzodiazepines do, which is exactly why they prescribe them. Most commonly prescribed medication that they give people for anxiety, depression, whatever. It's a benzo.
So they try to put me on Wellbutrin a while ago for kind of a little bit of depression I had. And then I read the side effects, and one of the side effects, it says suicide. And I went, wait a minute, hold on one second.
Right.
So you're telling me if I have suicidal thoughts, if I take this, then I will follow.
I could really do it. Yeah.
I'm like,
well, and that's the thing, because here I'll tell you a story. When I was still doing the nursing thing, we had a brand new drug that came out on the market, brought to you by this and so we prescribed it to this elderly patient. She had been married for like, I don't know, 58 years, something like that, totally and still in love with her husband. She comes back after starting the drug, and there was a 20 and a 40 milligram, and she says, I don't know what to do. I woke up in the middle of the night and I was standing over my husband with a butcher knife. She's like, scared me to death. She's like, I love my husband. I would never hurt him. I don't want to take this medication anymore. And so what does the doctor do? I'm telling her she needs to stop it, because this is a brand new med on the market. We don't know.
Right.
Even if it's been on the market for 40 years, we don't know what it's going to do, because everybody's different. So what does the doctor do? That is the wrong way to look at it, Janet. We need to up this medication to 40 milligram. And I told him, I'm like, okay, and I'm going to document in the chart. These are the things the patient was experiencing, counseled patient to stop the medication because of homicidal tendencies, blah, 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 discussion with the doctor. The doctor says increase to 40 milligrams. I am making my argument known against this. I documented it, and I got written up because I documented because I was siding with the patient. I was a patient advocate. That's your job as a healthcare professional. No matter if you're a nurse, a doctor, whatever you are a patient advocate first and foremost. And if you don't advocate for your patients, you have no business being around patients ever.
What was the name of that medication, by the way?
I don't know if I should say it on the show or not, because it may be trademarked and patented, and then you could get sued.
Okay. The reason why I ask is you said that story, right?
Starts with a CYM. So I can't do the rest.
You said that story, and you said that the wife was standing over the husband with a butcher knife. And as you said that, from the other room, I heard a burst of laughter.
She's like, what's that medication called?
I want to know, so that way I make sure their doctor never prescribes it ever.
Right.
And if you saw, I was trying not to laugh too hard while you were telling this detrimental story, because from the other room I heard a it's scary.
Things are going to be quite interesting at your house later, aren't they?
Actually, she's pregnant. I'm going to be a dad. Yeah.
Congratulations.
40, thank you. At 41, I'm going to be a dad again. I have a 21-year-old daughter.
Well, congratulations. That is an interesting time. I don't think I could do that at my age. I'm a lot older than you are. Yeah, I can't imagine.
Listen, I'm
I don't have the energy for that now.
I'm gonna have to find it, because I've wanted, like, I have one biological daughter, and I've wanted another child for a long time, and I came to the to realization that it wasn't gonna happen. And then I met my wife now, and all of a sudden it was just like,
surprise.
Hey,
you said you wanted another one. Here you are.
So I'm excited, and like you said, it's a wild time, and she's great though. Like I've finally met my person.
That's
it took
good.
a while, and the reason that's why I laughed, because I knew exactly what she was laughing at, and it made me laugh because the bitches.
They're both writing that name down secretly right now.
Gotta make sure she that shit. But yeah, it's all the medications, and then they want to take the good ones that make you feel good away. You know what I mean?
Well, if you lived in our state, they're trying to legalize things that weren't legal here before. So there you go.
Well, I mean, I've actually, to be honest with you, I've turned the corner on it, on legalizing drugs. Like, to be honest with you, if you want to go and overdose, by all means, go ahead. You have the right as a citizen. You have a right as an American citizen to do as you please. So if that's what you want to do, and it's kind of like I know in other countries, my buddy Rich, we were having this conversation on our other show, Off Label, and there was one country that recently legalized it probably about 20, 30 years ago, legalized all drugs. And for the first 3 years, people were going crazy. People were overdosing and all that stuff. But after 3 years, people were just like,
this is boring.
It's what what are we gonna do? Like, it was fun while we were just like, it's illegal. Now it's legal. Let's go crazy. And then now it's like, it is what it is.
The thing about like legalizing marijuana, like back in the day, right? There was one kind of marijuana, and now because of genetic modification and stuff like that, we have all these strands that are so much stronger now than what it ever was in the past. And it's like my personal experience with people that we know personally, it's like if they do too much of it, like they can't remember anything that you guys have ever talked about. They have like outbursts that are crazy, and I don't know if it's like from the same strand of stuff or they just like super duper heavy user or whatever. But it's like that you can definitely tell on some people like what kind of effect it has.
Oh, you can tell on me, because in Missouri it's legal, and we went a couple of weeks ago to I had an anxiety attack at it because I was just like, oh my God, this is really happening. And I went and and my wife was an avid smoker like back in the day, so she kind of knows a lot more than I do. And and all my friends make fun of me for it because they do it. And I got a 5 milligram gummy, and this thing was like
tiny big. Yep.
Yeah, it was delicious. I don't know what they're making that makes it so delicious besides the marijuana, but it was good. And I was like, listen, I know what's gonna happen. I'm telling you. Oh no, it's just 5 milligrams. It's fine. It's nothing big. I go, listen, it could be 1 milligram. It could be 0.05 milligrams. It doesn't matter. I'm telling you, this is what's gonna happen. And they're like, okay. And she's like, all right, well, just try. I go, okay. So I took it. Within 45 minutes, everything that I said was going to happen. I went into a childlike state, and I was just like this in a Walmart. And she goes, I'm going to have to drive home, aren't I? And I go,
well, and people will call me sometimes because I don't do any of that stuff, and I don't have a problem with anybody who does. But it's like funny because people will call me and they've had an edible of some kind or whatever, and they're so high for so long they don't know what to do to come down. And I'm like, you're asking me? I'm like, I'm the last person in the world that you should be calling to ask about that. But it's like hysterical when they call because like can't stop laughing and tell these long run on stories and whatever. And I'm like, what are you even like? I don't even know what you're saying right now. I can't help you.
Listen, the best advice I have for someone, because that's the way I get. I just start laughing. You ever see the movie 21 Jump Street, the newer one, where they have that thing where you go through all the stages of emotions?
Right.
That's how I get. I go like happy, sad, happy, like crying, happy, and stuff like that. And but the only advice that, to be honest with you, is just write it out. Just sit on the couch, put on a movie, watch an animated movie, watch How to Train a Dragon, and just sit there in awe and just write it out and just enjoy the ride. you know, and just don't. And I know it's easier said than done. Don't give yourself anxiety about it.
Well,
Because
some people do though, because they're high for so long that they're contemplating where they need to go like seek medical attention or whatever. And I'm like, I don't even know what to do for you, honestly, because I can't say like how you're feeling emotionally or what kind of symptoms you're having other than your mouth is going like a flapper on a goose's ass. That's all I can say.
Like that. Well, like Davey said, is one of the main things because a lot of people, once they get to a certain spot, they can't either understand what's going on or know that the fact that you're going to get through it. It's like to say, well, for me personally, like I've done enough shrooms in my life to where it doesn't really matter how much I kind of take. I already know at the end of the day, this isn't real, and eventually I'm going to get through it. It's the same thing with weed.
Yeah.
If you're going to eat it or whatever else, it's going to get crazy. Oh yeah, but write it out. Chill the fuck out.
But the biggest also problem is that people
you're having a bad trip.
It's not real. But the problem with people is especially nowadays is they want that instant like gratification.
Right.
So, you know, there's people who will just take whatever milligram of whatever it is and just not wait and just be like, oh well, I don't feel anything, like, you know,
I'll have more brownie.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's where the people go wrong, and that's where the problem is. Where they just, you know, they're not getting that instant gratification, and they don't wait, and then all of a sudden it just hits them at once, and then they freak out. So my advice to anybody who's listening that wants to try it just try it small, you know, go small and let it happen. If you don't feel it, you know, just okay,
wait for a while.
Yeah,
right.
Give it an hour,
and also
2 hours, you know, it'll get there.
Right.
But you don't want to
also with the edibles though. Here's the thing with the edibles is that it metabolizes differently, so you're going to be in a different high. And also you don't let any out. What you consume is what you consume. It ain't the same thing as smoking. Like I could take big rips and I'm still letting some shit out I can handle and also get myself to a certain level. You can get to a certain level on edibles, but it's going to stay at that motherfucking level. You're not, there's nothing else that's coming out.
You gonna stay up there.
Yeah.
And like you said, like, well, the reason why I did it was because I have like degenerative discs in my back, and you know, I wanted to try something different, you know, and see if that worked instead of like the 70 ibuprofen, you know, a day or whatever it is. But like, so I wanted to try and say, hey, let me see if this works. And so it worked a little because there was some CBD in it stuff. But like you said, there's so many different kinds. Like I said to the girl, I go, I have back pain and I want to, you know, try to cope with the back pain. And she brought back like 7 bags.
Right.
And let me tell you, they know this is this strand with this strand and that, and this and this, and then you do this, and then you could take it with this, but this one works with it. And it's just like,
what happened just buying a dime bag from the kid behind the
I know it's so funny because I went home last year to visit my daughter, and so we went into one of the vape shops where they sell like marijuana pens and whatever, and I'm like, how in the hell do you know what to buy? Because there's literally like 700 different things in here. And like, you know, flavored, non-flavored, last this long, shorter shelf life. This is from California. This one's from Denver. This something, and all these numbers and whatever. And I'm like, I'm so confused.
Right.
I'm like, I would literally have to be in here and study like 24 hours a day for a year before I would understand all of that stuff.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And he turned into a toddler at Walmart. Well, and here's the thing with it too. I mean, like I get that people like I don't know, want to have a variety in it, but guess what, dog? At the end of the day, you're just getting fucking stoned. Like I don't understand the whole super amounts of variety. And also, to be honest, if you're anyone out there is vaping the cartridges and all that shit, fucking stop. Just smoke weed. Those cartridges.
Brought to you by
brought to you by Biz. That stuff, you have no idea what's in that. Like, you really don't. You don't know if it's a vegetable oil. You don't know if it's a fucking carcinogen. You have no fucking idea. So just smoke weed if you're going to fucking do it.
Well, that's why, like, to me, like, as many strands and stuff as they have nowadays and whatever, and I am so totally against genetic manipulation of anything.
I am too.
I'm like, the last time that I ever smoked marijuana, I took a very small hit and it hit me like a freight train. I couldn't move my arms, I couldn't move my legs, and I was like paralyzed. And I'm like, what in the world? This is not like the old stuff. Like, I cannot move. And of course, I'm like, I have to pee so bad, and I literally cannot lift my legs. Can't lift my arms to get a drink. Like, I can't move. And I was paralyzed for like an hour. And I'm like,
my God.
I'm like, okay, this is not for me. This is not enjoyable. I mean, I literally could have peed my pants on my friend's deck and had to sit there for an hour while they laughed at me. You know what I mean?
Dumb and Dumbers, just go, man.
Exactly.
Let it out, man. But it's funny how, like, certain, and this is what people don't understand. Like, everybody's body's different, and when coming back to the vaccines, like the way everybody's body's different. Like, I have friends that will be able to smoke all day, and they can do everything. They can go for hikes. They can take an engine out of a car and rebuild
high functioning.
Yeah, I can't. No matter what, they're like, "Oh, take this one, take that." No matter which one I do, I end up in my bed in a pillow fort, looking out like my parents are gonna come and put me in timeout.
Or a baby at Walmart.
Yeah, or a child at Walmart. You know, so it's like everybody's body's different, you know, and so when people try to force you to do something, like I didn't take the flu shot. The last time I took the flu shot was 25 years ago, and I got the flu. You know, and now I have people telling me, "Well, you didn't get the flu. Well, you got this." I go, "No, I got the flu." I go, "What is in that? What is in the vaccine in order to make you to build your immunity?" The flu virus is a part of that vaccine. So, well, yeah. So if you're telling me that in order for me to build immunity over something that I don't get, and you want me to take it and forcing me to take it, no.
Well,
like,
think about this. You know how they always advertise commercials on TV and stuff late at night for pharmaceutical companies, especially one in general. It's a really big one. And it's like, take this medication for prevention of HIV.
Oh, yeah.
What?
How about you alternate your behavior a little bit, and then you wouldn't need to take that. Like, I don't know, have safe sex. You know, if whatever. I'm like, why do you need to take something to prevent something that you may or may not get possibly down the road in the future?
Right. And then it's like, oh yeah, by the way, it's going to destroy your kidneys while you're at it too.
Exactly. Yep.
Yeah,
and that's most of them are like they have so many things in them that damage not just your liver but all of your organs, things that settle in your brain and stuff, because they're full of heavy metals, formaldehyde, heavy detergents, you know, carcinogenic products. Because in the United States, what we have is it's called grass. And it is
go
generally
touch it, kids.
Don't do drugs.
No, go touch grass.
This is called generally recognized as safe. However, what that means is they have never fully tested X, Y, and Z substances for carcinogenic effects or no neurological effects or anything like that. They just kind of get together in a group and they're like, oh, yeah, it's kind of a consensus. Yeah, we think it's probably safe. And so yeah, let's put it in vaccines or
Right.
makeup or hair products or, anything. And it's such a loose standard that we have in the United States. And that's how all of that garbage gets into everyday products.
That gives a whole new meaning to ass, gas, or grass now.
Yeah,
Really recognize it saying.
Yep, that's our literal manufacturing process in the United States. As long as they slap that label, they can put whatever they want into anything. That's why, and here's a little factoid for you guys. You may not know. If you're going to buy cheese, buy real cheese, because cheese that is not real, cheese that is like super processed, manufactured, actually contains wood pulp, which is the same as sawdust. And they're also putting it in Breyer's ice cream now.
Holy shit.
Sorry, Breyer's lovers. Yeah, it's not going to be called ice cream anymore. It's going to be called frozen desserts because it has very, very small amount of dairy in it and mostly pulp.
Jesus,
that's crazy.
But
go eat a tree.
It goes to the saying, you people will live in the pods and eat the bugs, and they will like it. And the problem with that is, it's funny because when you see on the boxes now, growing up, kids, and most of us grew up in the 80s. I think all of us grew up in the 80s, and we were just eating all this. We're eating all this food, and now we're seeing on some of the things I've recently, within the last 10, 15 years, on a box of Hot Pockets, I saw made with real cheese, and I go, so what was it made with? Or
right.
Like, well, and there's so many
bioengineered product or something.
Right.
That's our new labeling as of the first of this year that we're supposed to be paying attention to is the genetically modified labeling that they're slapping on things, but there's loopholes in that too. But as far as bug wise, they've been doing that for quite a while as it is, because one of the most common things is cochineal bugs, because they provide red coloring for things. So red velvet cake, red dyes, things like that is all made from cochineal bugs.
Is it true that vanilla is made from beaver anus
glands?
Yeah, and raspberry.
Oh my god!
I read that. I read that to my husband we were on our way to Indiana, and I had one. It was really disturbing because all I had was a seltzer, and it was a raspberry flavored seltzer, and I had heard about the beaver anal glands thing, and I was like, let me look it up and see if it's real, and I couldn't drink it after that, so I had a full on discussion. I was like, yeah, anything that's like vanilla or raspberry flavored probably is not the best.
Yeah, and that's the flavor ring, the artificial flavor. So there's a big difference, like especially if you're a baker or whatever, between actual vanilla and artificial vanilla. Tastes.
Well, say that brings a whole new like Davey said earlier, a whole new meaning. Here's a whole other new meaning. Why strippers, I guess, smell like vanilla then? Because you smell like beaver anus, like. God damn it, man! Everything is just getting ruined in this fucking world.
That's gonna be my excuse next time. Were you with a stripper? No, I was by beavers.
Oh man!
Oh my god!
I mean, we're talking about like the food being genetically modified. I was talking to I'll say our son, Amanda's son, but I call him my son because he's part of my family now because we're mom and baby. So talking to my son, and we were talking about this stuff because he's intelligent. He's 11 years old, and this kid is he can tell you everything about World War II, World War I, all history. He's a history buff. He knows everything about it. But we were talking about like genetically modified things because he loves Diet Coke, and I'm trying to get him off the Diet Coke. And got to stop because there's so many chemicals in that. It's not good for you. I'm like, there's chemicals in everything. And I said to him, I go, and I grabbed the bread, like the Walmart bread, and I looked at the ingredients, and there's words I can't even pronounce. And I'm not talking about like wheat, because I can pronounce that.
Just the basics, folks.
But there was so many words that you can't pronounce, and it's fucking bread. Like, why does bread have to be so complicated? It's simple. It's a couple ingredients. It rises, and that's it. But there's like dehydrated boxinoxanone, and it's like, what the fuck are we doing? And there was a video recently that some lady was showing 2 cans of corn, and one was just, you know, regular salt, corn, water, and then the other one was all these different kinds of ingredients. And then one on the warning label, it said it might contain something that's illegal in California. And it was like, what
the fuck?
What are we doing here? Like, why are we? And when you talk about genetically modified stuff, they're stopping people from actually being able to plant their own seeds now. Like fruits and vegetables, where you could just take the seeds from the fruits and vegetables and plant it and make your own. They're genetically modifying it so that way you can't do it.
They're making it so it's only it only will grow once. It will not reproduce at all,
which is ridiculous.
Out in California now, they're trying to ban Skittles. Did you hear about this? Like about a year ago, because of the coloring, it has titanium dioxide.
Which is funny because titanium dioxide is literally in vaccinations. It's in medications. It's in makeup, hair
it's in sunscreen,
deodorant, literally everything.
Yeah.
It's a crazy world we live in. And most of our food isn't even the same in other countries. It's not even legal in other countries. Some of the stuff that we eat, like
you compare like what would be here to over there, and it will like have like 7 less ingredients in it.
Yeah,
like what their version is, because they do fucking say no, we're not. There's no such safe level of fucking lead in some. Like, what the fuck are we doing here? Are you serious? Like, why would they have that in our? Oh, there's a reason why they have that in our food, because healthy people don't make money.
Right. 100%. And there was a big, well, that's happened twice now, but like everybody on the health kick, you know, they go and they eat oatmeal for breakfast, right? Gotta eat those oats to lower that cholesterol. And Quaker Oats has been in the penalty box twice now. The first time was because they were giving radiated oats to children at a like an orphanage. And that was back in the 70s, early 70s, I want to say. And then here recently they got in trouble because they are putting chloroquat on their oat crops, which is highly toxic and highly carcinogenic. And it's like, but everybody eat them because it's a great idea.
Right. That's fucking crazy.
That is, I mean, I can't.
Well, it doesn't surprise me with that giving the radiated oats to back in the day. Obviously, so many experiments were ran where people just did stupid shit. It's not surprising. It's terrible, but it's also not surprising.
Well, and they partnered with MIT, and so you know, and on all these like all these horrific, like stupendous things that they were doing, like in the orphanage, like in the 50s to the early 70s or whatever, they were all partnered with universities or like Catholic charities every single time. And it's like there was one, and I can't remember, I think it was in upstate New York, and I can't remember the name offhand, but they were actually infecting the children with hepatitis C. Jeez. They were purposely giving them hepatitis C because most of the patients that came there were going to get hepatitis C anyway, so we'll just give them all hepatitis C. That way we can study the whole orphanage. And I'm like,
Jesus.
And this was brought to you by such and such university and Catholic Charities.
That's crazy.
HIV, same thing with an orphanage and Dr. Anthony Fauci in upstate New York. Same kind of deal where they were testing HIV drugs on infants and children at this orphanage so that he could come up with the right combination to put out his drugs. And then he put out the AZT, which killed
countless people.
Yes.
Yeah, because AZT was originally a cancer drug?
Yeah.
Or supposed to be?
Yeah.
Well, it still blows my mind that, they were doing during World War II, they were doing these experiments on, Jewish people in these camps. And, instead of, putting them to death like they should have, they went, hey, you're smart. How about you come here and do that, and we'll just excuse all those war crimes that you did, and you work for us now, and then you get Project Paperclip and all that stuff, and and we say, oh, they're doing it here. It's for science here, but when they were over there doing it for World War II, they were the bad guys.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up because two of the scientists that they brought over from that wound up at two of the prestigious universities that we have now, who started the process of chemotherapy, which the very first chemotherapy was mustard nitrogen, aka mustard gas, which is outlawed in the Geneva Convention after World War I.
Here's therapy. What kind of therapy? Death. That's pretty much what.
Well, and that's pretty much what we still have today, right? But they can charge an arm and a leg for it. They rebrand it, remarket it under a different name, and they can charge, $80,000 a dose. And the patient has to come every 6 weeks or whatever for this medication that insurance won't pay all of. So,
you remember when there was a guy that was helping people pass on to the next life, and they put him
Dr. Kevorkian.
And now Canada is just like, hey, are you depressed? We have an easy way for you to
need a wheelchair. We'll do you in. Yeah.
Hey, need a wheelchair? Need a wheelchair? Can't afford groceries? Are you depressed? Have you thought about death?
Yeah. Well, that's actually really funny because it's not funny, but for the past few months, I've been seeing on my Instagram there's like articles coming out on like People Magazine, like US Weekly, like those types of, or 17 Magazine, I think was one of them, talking about a 28-year-old girl who has set up her death day because she's just saying that life is just too hard. And they keep putting these articles out there and stuff. But I think she's over in Sweden or one of those countries.
Sweden has the same kind of setup as Canada does, where they do the assisted suicide for people.
Oh no!
And
shit,
I think Germany's doing it too, but you have to be fully vaccinated before you can.
I saw an article about that.
Get all of your jabs before we actually kill you.
Right.
Yeah.
How ironic.
That is ridiculous.
Maybe they're hoping if you get jabbed enough, they won't have to government assist you to die. You'll just die on your own.
Right.
No, they could just charge your insurance company or whatever it is. And
exactly.
Then, you're fine.
Right.
A little reimbursement for us.
It's the medical system is
broken.
It's wild.
Yeah.
It's extremely wild, and I don't know how it gets fixed because when the news is being sponsored by certain companies and then they're telling you to take certain things, don't you think there's a bias towards
100% there
products?
is,
but nobody
well, and then And then nurses and doctors who go against that are being like their license are being taken away, they're getting reprimanded, fired, and blocked, that type of, that's the scary part.
Right.
Is that, in science should never have like a full consensus. That's
No.
not science. Like, if you're going to do an experiment, something that could be like, okay, well, I think that you should be able to have an experiment that is easily repeatable and you get the same results if that's what it is, And
well, that was the starting premise behind science, but it's not that way anymore, right?
No, it's not. It's not that. And I think it's came to a real head though with COVID. I mean, there's no ifs, ands, or buts about it, because you see these prestigious papers like the Lancet
that are sponsored by Pfizer.
Right. And now they're coming out with articles to the WHO, giving them instructions on how to deal with the next pandemic,
right? Which
they
already have in the pipeline anyway, because they're trying to ratify and put through that WHO pandemic treaty, which gives them full and complete access to the whole entire world's population to do as they want, which is interesting because just today, I can't remember what country it was. Started with a B.
Bolivia, Brazil.
No, I don't remember what it was, but
Belgium.
Their president came out and he's like, "No, thank you. We're not going to be ratifying this WHO pandemic treaty. Absolutely not. We don't want to be a part of it." And literally, yes, and literally like 10 minutes after that, he was shot.
What? Yes. Oh.
Yep.
Shock and all. Gee, I wonder how that happened.
Well, holy shit.
But there's no conspiracy about anything, the fact that people don't and listen, to be honest with you, I never was a conspiracy theorist. I thought JFK happened the way JFK happened. I thought the movie Conspiracy Theorist with Mel Gibson was a great movie as a like fictional thing.
Right.
And as I get older, I realize it's not. The same with Falling Down.
True.
The same thing with the movie Falling Down with Michael Douglas. As a kid, I'm like, why is that guy so mean to kids? And as an adult, I'm like, get him, fucking get him.
You're like, now I get it.
I'm carrying an Uzi in my briefcase too. Fuck everybody. But that's another thing. Is like as you grow up, you realize more and more how like nobody's doing anything because they like you. People are doing everything for the most part for their own benefit. I mean, Chris Cuomo,
because like we talked about early in the show, selfishism is pushed by churches, by therapists, by everybody nowadays. Like, be selfish, it's okay.
Yeah, it's real backwards. And that
coupled with the dehumanization,
yeah,
and the compartmentalization of stuff,
right? Real backwards ass teaching these days about a lot of things,
right?
Yeah, and like I was like Chris Cuomo, who now all of a sudden is maybe, and his oh my god, and his Andrew Cuomo, who
you mean nipples?
Yeah, nipple rings.
Nipple rings should get the biggest punch in his dick, but I think he'd like that. I don't kink shame. I think he'd like that. But like these motherfuckers are now coming out and saying, well, we really had no ability to tell people that they had to stay home and they couldn't. Fuck you. Yeah. Fuck all of
and
you.
It was a conscious choice the patients made. Like, we didn't tell people that.
Yeah.
Right.
Are you freaking serious? The internet's forever, right?
But that's the problem.
Right.
Even though the internet's forever, you have people who will just sit there and like Destiny. I don't know if you know who Destiny is, but he's a
he's a stripper.
Are you? Did you say Destiny?
Destiny.
Oh, Destiny. Yeah, I thought you were lisping there for a minute. I was like, what?
I sometimes do. But Destiny, who allows his wife to, ex-wife now, fuck everybody else, while he sits in the corner. But he's going on about how nobody ever forced anybody to take this. Nobody ever said that, that you had to take it or else you couldn't do anything. And it's just like, are you fucking for real?
Gaslighting. It's
Yeah.
called
Yeah,
gaslighting.
it
Are you for
is.
real? Like there's a whole, you can, and a lot of these people, you can put the video in front of them and their logic is, well, nobody really thought they were serious. Are you out of your fucking mind? You know how many people lost family because of this?
Dude, when I heard that,
You know how many people got fired because of that?
Right.
The Army, the Navy, the
Nurses,
Marines,
doctors, pharmacists.
Yeah, the people that were getting pots and pans clanked before there was a shot to take, and then after the shot, take it or you're fired. And now this is why we have twerking doctors. Like,
oh my God.
This. This was one of my favorite things during the pandemic, and I say that sarcastically. One of the groups of patients that were forced to take this were cancer patients at a children's cancer hospital. They were forced to get the jibber jabber, and all of their family who come from, all over the world to this place for long-term housing and treatments and whatever. They all had to get the jibber jabber. Okay, so you already have a kid that's very highly immunocompromised because they have cancer, and you're making them get a series of these along with their family members.
They were during
what?
Like any person who had, I had 2 people in my family who had cancer right in the middle of when everything shut down. And for them to get their cancer surgeries, which were considered elective surgeries at that time, because,
right.
But after that, they had to get the vaccine before they could even have their surgeries. And it's like, so why? But why? Like, I mean, but if you think about the narrative at the time, it's 100% effective. You can't get it, and you can't spread it if you got it.
Right.
And that's how they got everyone manipulated enough to be like, I have to take this or whatever. It's like they're to their will.
They have literally said that for every vaccination that has ever been rolled out, though. And case in point was when I was still working, I was in charge of the Vaccines for Children program. And they were like, well, hey, there is this new thing we're rolling out. It's called varicella, and it's to prevent kids from getting chickenpox. They only need one. And it's going to prevent it, and they'll never get chickenpox, and it'll be impressive. It'll be great. It'll eradicate it. So they rolled this out. They, of course, jump on the bandwagon, and all the schools in the state made it mandatory. All the kids had to get it. We're getting it. And then all of a sudden, all these kids are coming back with chickenpox that were vaccinated. And then the state was like, oh, crap. Okay, well, we're going to tell you guys you're going to have to report for us. So we became a reporting facility, and you had to guess in like tiers how many spots each patient would have. Like, did they have 1 to 100 or whatever, and it was categorized. And then every day at the end of the day, I would have to fax it to the state so the state could keep a running total on all of these kids that were getting massive chickenpox. And they're like, oh, but it's still great. It's still great, though. It'll prevent them from getting it. And chickenpox, they've always told us you could only get it once, right?
Right.
Lie.
Yep.
So then the state's like, oh, crap. Well, these numbers look terrible. Okay, we're going to do a second round. So the second one is definitely going to prevent people from getting it, and definitely prevent them from, having reoccurrences later and blah, blah, blah. And it got worse and worse and worse. And we were seeing kids that were coming in that literally would have chickenpox like 6, 7, 8 times. All the time.
God.
And they're like, oh, well, they must be like 1 in a million. Like that's not that's not very common. And I'm like, it's not common at all. And patients would have it once and they would never get it again until they got vaccinated. And it was
Oh
like
my
a
God.
recurrent thing. And then what do
Yeah.
we have to do? Then we have to develop the Zostavax, which is for shingles because varicella causes shingles later in life. And so then we had to develop the shingles vaccine.
Yep. I stopped giving my kids, well, I feel bad because my first child is 6 years older than my second child, so my first child was my guinea pig, I guess. But I stopped giving my first child any vaccinations by the time he was 3, because I went to the doctor's one day and he had a little bit of a cold, and I didn't want him to get a flu vaccination if he had a cold. And the nurse told me, she's like, oh, that's probably good because, it's only 10% effective and they don't really know what strains out there anyway. And I was like, then why am I doing this?
Yeah, then why am I doing this?
So then it got me, and I've told the guys, I was really into doing like a lot of research for a very long time. I deep dived into the vaccinations. I went on the CDC website. I printed out the list of all their vaccines and all the ingredients.
Vaccine excipient summary.
Oh, yep. I have it printed out. I have it highlighted. I looked at everything I didn't know what was what. And then I went down a rabbit hole and I ended up finding a place where you can buy organs. And I was like,
exactly.
I think I went too far.
She's like, put on the brakes.
Yep. Yep. And I was like, I pressed the back button on my search engine. I was like, let's go back a little bit. Yeah. So then I stopped and I got really adamant about like, no, I'm not doing this. I've got kicked out of doctors' offices, had to find new doctors' offices, had to fight with schools and everything. And my first son, he got his MMR and he got 1 or 2 of his MMRs and then 1 polio. I have got him blood drawn for the school because up in New Jersey, it was like you have to get a blood draw to see if they have the immunities. It's called like Hawley's Law or something like that.
Yep.
And he hadn't had any of these shots for years, and he's still over the threshold of like the required immunities for all these different things. And I'm like, so then why would I make him take that again, especially when I know like there's the aluminum, the formaldehyde, different types of things
because
like
it
that
lessens the immunity.
Right.
Vaccinations do the exact opposite of what they're sold to the public that they do. And they've never eradicated a single thing. Any kind of quote illness, which I say that loosely, that comes through, it always eradicates itself, like polio and the whole 9 yards, because back in the day when polio was a big thing, the diagnosis parameters for polio were so loose. It was like, oh, you got a muscle twitch, you must have polio. Oh, you got a cramp in your toe, oh, you must have polio. It was like all of these things were so like loose to be able to be like the diagnosis for it, and polio literally went away on its own. But I grew up in the era where we had the oral polio, and they pulled that off the shelves because lo and behold, it was dangerous to people.
Yeah, and then you know what they did to that shit? They sent that shit over to the Philippines and started giving it to kids. And then there was a whole huge polio outbreak, and it was sent over there by who? Some foundation. Yeah.
It's funny you say that.
Oh, I was just going to say real quick, like, I know back up in like New Jersey and New York, what they do is they shame the Hasidic Jew community all the time when it comes to like measles. They'll be like, oh, there's a measles outbreak and it's because of them Hasidic Jews.
I know. And I keep waiting for the Amish community to die off, which is never going to happen. Apparently. I mean, they don't take any vaccines or anything. They're supposed to be dead by now, but
they're
okay.
Well,
the
if you
healthiest
read,
community that there is because they don't
Mhm.
believe in the
All this
uh,
pharmaceutical shit, like,
the
really didn't do any
westernized
of it.
medicine.
Mhm.
As a
right.
whole, they don't believe in it. So
Right.
And if you look actually at any of the outbreaks of polio or the measles in the United States of late, they all say it's vaccine derived polio, meaning
Mhm.
that it came from someone who was vaccinated who may have given it to someone else, or they had expressed like
or
symptoms from it.
they plopped it in the water supply, or in the
Right.
sewage plants like they have with the corona stuff.
Well,
Mm-hmm.
it's funny you say that about the polio, because they did that with the virus. They're like, got a gunshot, coronavirus. You get hit by a train,
Well, that's
coronavirus.
because it's
How?
that's because there is financial incentive
Yeah.
for diagnosis, testing, and funding.
Well,
So the more that you can diagnose, test, even assumptive diagnose a patient, which means you just look at me and you're like, "Oh, you got a stuffy nose, you definitely have it then," and without, like, looking any further than I have a stuffy nose. So they get
Mm-hmm.
paid for all of those things, they get paid per deaths, and that all figures into the bottom line amount of money that the hospital gets from the federal government.
and that is what turned me.
Mhm,
That is what turned me on conspiracies,
mhm.
because when they signed that first bill, and I read the first bill because I was like, what? Let me just see what's in this. And I don't remember what exactly made me do it, but I read the first bill, and it said every hospital gets 40 grand per patient.
Mhm.
And I
Mm-hmm.
was like, wait a minute, hold on. And then I started reading more, and then 25 million to this, 25 million to that, 25 million to this. And I'm going, what does that have to do with the virus? Like, what does that have? What does giving funding to any of these things have to do with anything? And that's what kind of opened my eyes to, like, oh,
Can you say
you know,
money laundering?
yeah,
Because
Yeah.
those are your income dollars
yeah.
that the government is handing back to the hospitals, that's then in turn handing it back to the government,
Mm-hmm.
funneling money through the CDC, funneling money through the FDA, because that's big business in itself. There's a revolving door between big pharma and the FDA, CDC, because it's like 17 of their last 32 directors, I want to say, have gone on to get giant jobs at big pharma, or have
Scott
been a
Gottlieb.
CEO at big pharma and came over to be in the approval process office for drugs at the FDA.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
My question is, why did they change the name of coronavirus 2 times? First it was the coronavirus, then it was COVID-19, and now it's SARS-CoV-2.
Right. And it was SARS because there was a SARS outbreak. 80s, I want to say,
Right.
because Fauci was still the director or whatever, and we also had MERS, which is the same thing,
Right.
but again, rebranding a different thing. Because if you look in old medical textbooks, corona is the same as influenza. It
Yeah.
causes the same thing. It's the same as rhinovirus. Like, all of those things are classified as the same thing as flu. All of it. It's in
Right.
the textbooks.
All under, like, the same umbrella, basically.
Yep.
So you're talking about people going from the FDA to some of these pharmaceutical companies.
Mhm.
And what I thought was funny is that Scott Gottlieb was
Mhm.
the head of the FDA for a long time. And then
Right.
after Trump left office, he went and now he's on the board of directors of the P1, I
Mhm.
believe.
Well, and same with Dr. Fauci, because when he, quote, retired, he went to work for a pharmaceutical giant that is in Italy. That, oddly enough, all of our Congress members have stock in this company for biologics. And he went to work for them as a wink consultant.
Nothing to see here with that.
I just think it's weird because Scott Gottlieb, and I think of Gottlieb, and I think of Sidney Gottlieb, who was considered the Black Sorcerer back in World War II times, because he's the one that came up with like the MK Ultra stuff and all the weird ways to try to kill Fidel Castro, between like putting poison in bodysuits and different things. And I was just like, I wonder if there's any type of familial.
Oh, I'm sure there is.
You think?
There's probably no fork in that tree, like literally all the way down. It's probably one of those bloodline families.
Yeah.
But that's, I mean, it's commonplace for them, and they'll start out like at the FDA in the approval center, and then they'll go to work at Big Pharma, and they'll work also in the approval center, and vice versa. And so they already know what each other's doing and how they can skirt regulations and get around stuff.
Well, yeah, that's why I really hate family, like in like politics. You know, I really
Nepotism.
don't like. Yeah, I don't like that. Like, you know, and one of the reasons I voted for Trump the first time, I didn't want another Clinton. I didn't want another Bush. I didn't want family legacies. You know, growing up, they always said anybody could be the president. And when you look at it, you just have the same family after family after family in politics. And it's like, why, you know, and I had this conversation with family members when I was talking to them, and I'm like, why? Well, this person's not Trump's not a politician. So, but you want people who've continually lied to us through our entire our life. And you want them to stay in there because what? Because
it's the norm.
Yeah.
That's what people are used to. And people don't like change historically for any reason on any level. And so it's like you have to do the status quo. You have to go for somebody that's been a lifelong politician or has been a judge or a lawyer forever or ever or whatever, because these are the steps that we normally take, and this is what we have to do just because we've always done it.
Yeah, like besides Trump, like the other president within our lifetimes, I guess, who wasn't a lawyer beforehand would be like what, Reagan? He wasn't a lawyer, was he?
No, he was an actor. Yeah,
but he was governor before he became president.
Oh,
besides, but like
I would say, well, and this is my lifetime, but I would say Jimmy Carter.
That man will not go. That man has been in hospice since '97, and he just won't go. He's just hanging on. I think he just wants Biden to get out of office to go, I wasn't the worst, and then Carter's going to finally leave.
Right, very true.
I guess he can go now peacefully, knowing that he isn't the worst one.
No. But it's just it bothers me a lot that all these people, like even with Biden, you know, all these people rah, you know, it's funny because it's like the Yankees. Like either you like the Yankees or you're just rooting against them, and that's what it is. It's like people are just either for Trump or just anybody else. They don't care, you know. And it's like, well, here's an idea. Why don't you maybe do some research on it and not, you know, listen to everything. By the way, this Chris Cuomo and all this stuff, if people don't realize that the news is garbage and they just lie to us constantly because of the paychecks that they're getting, people will never get it. And it's sad. And it's sad that there's a big portion of the population that just won't understand that. Like people now coming out and being like, well, like we didn't really know. And, you know, the 6 feet thing, just made it up. You know, we didn't know, you know, we just decided that was a good idea. But
I think it's hilarious.
It was just a conversation we were having when we were walking down the hallway, and it was funny. We laughed about it.
Dude,
let's make that a rule.
I hear people saying that we didn't know that the vaccine was going to be either bad or not effective, blah blah blah, whatever
I
else.
knew that
I'll
right
I'll
out the
revert.
gate.
Well, I'll revert right back to whenever Del Bigtree put that fucking interview up with Garrett Vandenbosch. That was real fucking early. And who did he work for? Bill Gates. What did he do? Fucking make vaccines. What did he say? Don't take that shit, dog. And but no one knew, right? Okay, yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, no. Well, I mean, no one knew because everybody who had a dissenting opinion about it was ostracized.
Right.
Mhm.
That's true.
The Weisenstein brothers or whatever it is, those they have a podcast now.
Weinsteins?
The Weinsteins.
Weinstein.
Yeah, the Weinsteins, where they were saying that no, I don't think you should, and they're just like, well, we're just going to take your doctorate away now, and you're no longer allowed to be doctors because you have you're going against it. It's like there's a problem here when you can't have people arguing on whether or not it's good. I mean, look at like the eggs. I take the eggs for example because growing up when we grew up, it was like eggs are bad. You too much cholesterol. Don't eat
I
eggs.
say that all the time.
You can't eat more than 3 eggs. If you eat, because I grew up thinking like you can't have more than 2 eggs, and then
In a week.
Yeah, in a week, and then as an adult, I see people making 17 egg omelets, and I'm like, oh my god, their cholesterol must be through the roof. And then they're like, no, my doctor said my cholesterol is fine. I'm like, wait a minute, you could have 17 eggs, but they tell you the cholesterol in it was bad for so long, and then they reversed it. It was just like, nah, it's good. And then coffee too. Coffee, they tell you 1 month it's bad, next month it's good, next month it's bad.
Oh yeah.
And another thing that really gets me recently, I don't know if anybody else has heard this, they're saying that you get better, that you're better off eating a bowl of cereal than you are eating eggs and bacon.
And bacon, yeah.
It's fucking ridiculous.
I'm sorry.
Like cereal is like at the bottom of the pyramid.
Exactly. Our pyramid is inverted from the way it is supposed to be. You should literally be eating a ton of meat. Yeah. That's what you should be doing. And grains and stuff, you should cut that shit out because you cut that stuff out, your inflammation goes away, your mood stuff goes away, joint pain goes away, you sleep better, literally your hormones balance, all of that stuff because meat in general, especially beef or ruminant meats, have actual B12 in them, which is one of the things that is necessary for us for survival. That's the only source of actual real B12 that exists on the planet is in meat. The other B12 is manufactured, man-made, but you like cut out all the sugars and all the grains and all that stuff, and you're healthier, and your numbers are actually very healthy on lab work.
Well, the problem with that also is like, if you look, sugar is in everything. Like vegetables nowadays have sugar in it. Somehow they put that sugar because they've noticed that there's a sweet spot, pun intended, of how much sugar to put in everything that'll keep people addicted to it. And it's really hard to cut out sugars completely, and so you have
it's
that
not,
like, constant,
honestly, it's not.
Yeah. I mean, if for a lot of people, it kind of is because a lot of people don't know what to look for in things. You know what I mean? Because they hide it in, it'll say sugar free, but it'll have high fructose corn syrup in it.
Exactly.
It'll have this, this, and this, which people go, oh, well, it says sugar free, so I'll have it. And people don't know like apples and all that stuff and fruit have natural sugars, which is better for you
100%
than all that other stuff. So a lot of people are fooled into thinking sugar-free stuff is good when it's not sugar-free.
It's garbage. Yeah. And we've been like, that's been beat into our heads so often that, if you eat meat, you should stop eating meat because your cholesterol is going to go high. You're going to get a heart attack. You're going to die. That is all very false information because that particular study was commissioned back when Roosevelt was president, because Roosevelt had a heart attack. So they commissioned the study. I think it was I don't remember what year it was. But it was like the causal effect between cholesterol and heart attacks or heart disease. So let's survey all these countries. Well, wait a minute. Now we're not going to do that. Let's take out all the countries that have really low cholesterol but have a lot of heart disease. Let's take out all the countries that they have really low cholesterol and have heart disease or whatever. So they skewed all the results. They left out things. So it was a very inaccurate study per any study standards. So they broke protocols just like they did with the jib jab. And there's never been another causative study linking the two things together. And if you actually eat meat on a regular basis, cut out all the other crap, you don't have like excess waste. You don't have diabetes issues. You don't have any of that stuff. And people that had like high cholesterol numbers, your cholesterol is going to come back down to normal. So we've been lied to the whole time.
It's kind of it's eye-opening when you finally see it. I always say I hate the fact that I've been unplugged from the Matrix, because sometimes you just want a steak to taste like a steak, and now you're just like, I know this isn't real and it sucks.
Don't eat the what is that?
The Impossible Burger.
3D printed meat. Don't eat that.
Printed meat.
There's some restaurants that go to the 3D printed steaks and chicken, and I'll have a pass on that.
Yeah, fuck that.
What is it called? Deconstructed meat.
Well, that was like my ex was like, well, still is sort of vegetarian, I guess, whatever else. No, if she was that, I would not have met her because I wouldn't even known that was. But she ate Impossible Whoppers and shit, and then I started looking at what Impossible meat was, and guess what? There's proteins in that we don't even know what it is. So you're just gonna go ahead and eat shit that you don't even know what the fuck is in it, and it has extra shit and that nobody knows what it is.
It's honestly, and if you look it up, it's just like the ingredients in vaccines, right? You don't know until you look it up that it's like fetal cells, pigs, cows, dogs, sheep, monkeys, whatever. They're grabbing those proteins from somewhere. It could have literally been from somebody's body tissue samples that they took, because that's on consent forms at hospitals now. Is that you give them permission to take any and all samples from your body. They don't have to tell you. They can sell them. They can do genetic testing. They're not required to let you know that either. And they don't have to tell you that they took anything from you. So if you're going in for a surgery or they put you under for any reason whatsoever, you could be missing something when you come out.
That's crazy.
It's like when you take your pumpkin to the shop and it just comes back even worse. You're like, all of a sudden, why can't I poop right now? I just had surgery. It was just my knee. What the fuck?
Exactly.
All of a sudden,
now you have an extra kidney, and you're like, how did this get in here?
Can I get an extra liver, please? That would help out tremendously. But I mean, this was great. This was
hell yeah,
really fun.
I'm very chatty.
That's what we like, that's what
opinionated, I guess.
No, that's great. And actually, to be honest, it was good to hear a lot of what you were saying, especially here toward the end too, because I heard your last episode with I can't remember his name, but that guy, man, he was awesome, but man, he is the human form of cocaine. He is up and going, but he was hilarious and he's awesome, dude. But I loved all the information you guys were
Paranoia Radio.
Yeah.
I love him to pieces. He has so much energy. Like, I would like to bottle it and harness it just
I'd shoot
I
that
could
right in
have
my
it.
veins if I could.
Can I have some? I'm gonna need some with the baby on the way. So if he could bottle it and send it my
Right?
way,
And he's literally always that way too. And he's always like so just upbeat and happy all the time. And
Yeah,
I'm
he
like,
seemed like he was a
"Man."
really cool and good person too. Like you said, upbeat and like about halfway through, I was like, man, this guy is.
Yep. 100 miles an hour at all times.
Yeah.
Oh yeah, you could tell by when like he was smiling while he was talking.
Mhm.
Yeah. But Biz texted and he was just like, I feel like I might die right now. Like
I know. I was like about halfway through, I was like, I probably got about 10 days to live. But
yeah, he's like after listening to that about what is it, the cholesterol and
Yeah, we do
what have
a
you.
lot of shows together like that. And so we have one that we did after that. It's coming up like in 2 weeks, but it's like a diabetes show. And we're going to do a series of things for patients to get better informed. So I'm going to throw in Crohn's and all kinds of stuff in there. So
yeah, I was
it's wonderful.
I was flipping through your Spotify and I just saying cholesterol. I was like, she talks a lot about cholesterol.
Yeah, there's so many things because there's so many things that we've been lied to like forever about stuff, and I'm like, you know,
But
let's put this in a different light.
Like affect your body like the most out of everything else in your body?
Does what?
The cholesterol, doesn't that kind of control a lot of the stuff in your body?
Cholesterol actually has specific purposes in your body. And like the whole cholesterol thing is kind of a myth as to like, oh, it's hereditary, it's family inherited, like all this stuff, whatever, because cholesterol lubricates your cells. It helps you convert things. I mean, it literally has like 8 or 10 jobs that it does. It serves a purpose for. So does sugar. But that's not what we've been told, right? It's always been, oh my God, like any cholesterol is terrible. And if it's whatever, you're going to die. Your body actually manufactures cholesterol on its own.
Right.
And like the biggest tie between cholesterol and diabetes is the liver and liver health. Because, and that's a big thing about like diabetes is that people have been led to believe that it's just your pancreas all the time. It's 80-1 what your liver does versus your pancreas.
Oh, wow.
So, yeah.
Oh, yeah. Well, all right. I think are we at the end now? I think so.
I think we're just going to have Janet on another time.
Yes, we are. Yeah. Yes, we are.
More than welcome anytime.
Absolutely.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that.
This was very interesting. Like I learned a lot.
Oh, absolutely. And speaking of learning a lot, so people can learn a lot, let them know where they can find your show and where to find you.
Okay. You can find Deplorable Nation on any podcast platform. If you so choose to watch video, you can watch Deplorable Nation podcast on Rumble. You can find me personally on Instagram at Deplorable Janet or on Twitter, and it is No Janet, KNOW. And that is it.
All right.
Yeah, check out her stuff. I mean, you guys did you did a roundtable discussion about it was about religion. It's called the Sin Roundtable. I listened to some of that. I think I told the guys, I was like, you have to listen to it. It's a very thought-provoking discussion that you all had. Thought it was very interesting. I feel bad. I was like, I haven't listened to something this thought-provoking in a long time. So maybe I think I should.
That's why I love like some of the people that I get to meet, because the one guy that hosted the roundtable, he's in Australia, and it was like, so I met him through one of my best friends, and we talk, church and religion and whatever sometimes. And she's like, oh, I got to have you on this roundtable. She's like, I'm going to tell him we're going to invite you. And then they invited, Pastor John and my friend Brandon. So yeah,
Nice.
very good discussions. Yeah.
Hell yeah.
Absolutely. So check out Janet, guys.
Yes,
And
absolutely.
well, you can find me on Twitter at Suburban Mama 1, Suburban Mama the number 1. Find me there. You can also find me and Davey on Sundays on Rumble on the Weekend Hangover, where we talk pop culture, different types of things, relationship advice, kind of just anything and everything. And then starting next week, me and my friend Haley have started a all-girls podcast called Pretty Antisocial. That'll be live on Twitter, on Rumble, and YouTube at 10 a.m. So check us out there at Pretty Antipod.
Yeah.
And you can find me tomorrow on Off Label Podcast with Rich. And starting next week, we will be going 2 days a week on the Off Label Podcast. We will be doing Tuesdays and Thursdays. But you can find us tomorrow at Off Label tomorrow is at 8:30 Central, 9:30 Eastern. But starting next week, we will be at 7 Central, 8 Eastern. Starting next week, and then Sunday hangover, weekend hangover, and then just follow me on Twitter at Troublemaker Davey, and TikTok the same thing while it's still around. Links in bio.
And beyond that, we have the IG Business Party Podcast. Hit us up there if you want to have any guests that you want to see on here, anything that might be discussed, whatever else. And if you're watching on Twitch, the Discord link is in the Twitch bio, so hit that up, come in, discuss shit with us, and we're trying to get that going more. And beyond that, I think that's it for the night. Thank you, Janet, for coming on. Look forward to having you back on soon. Go listen to her stuff, and I hope you all have a good night. We love you all, and we will see you next Wednesday.